That's not a, I don't blame a 20-year-old for not knowing or being ignorant about something. I don't even blame, even at this point, you gain age, right? So it becomes all like this big thing. As you age, you look down, you look back, if not down, don't do that. But you look back on your age and those that are younger than you, and you just assume they don't know as much as you. All right? Wisdom isn't just predicated on age. Wisdom is predicated on experience. And there are some young folk out there that are getting some hellaciously good experiences that some of us that are older would never even conceive of or try to understand. So what does that mean? Well, it means they might be doing some good things because they know a little bit more than we do on a particular topic, item, or issue. All right, so yeah, I try to educate younger folk than myself on good music in all forms and varieties. And definitely, I'll bring that all back to home right now. The music for tonight on Tag That Track is going to be from a time as I grew up as a little boy in both sides of my family in a household where I think some of these songs are lost. I think some of those songs need to be remembered. I think I mentioned, if not last week, the week prior, that there was a song that's really old and my daughter really, really loves, and it's like from the 50s. But she heard it for the first time doing some work, doing some research, and next thing you know, it ends up being one of her favorite tunes. Sorry about that, technical difficulty, but yeah, we are live, so we'll continue. I don't want to have to break and come back. All right, sorry about that. So anyway, you got the point. You'll get the music tonight. I think one of you in particular will like the music tonight. If you stay with me, lady, stay with me, and you'll like the music tonight. All right, where did it go? Using my thing here. Try this again. Okay, we're good. Yeah, I think we'll do that now. I think the other night there was the volume was not very high. It was low. I don't know if it was that, but some of the people said something about on air about the volume. So maybe it wasn't high enough because they had to turn it up real high. Okay, so let's do this. Let's get down to business. Get a little drink here. So I did watch both nights of the debates, 2 hours each, 20 candidates total, 10 apiece, 10 on Wednesday, 10 on the Thursday. I talked a little bit about what I saw, at least initially, on the Wednesday night. And so here's the deal. I'm not here to push a candidate or like an ideology on you one way or the other, but what you do is you take a look at them, and I answered this on one of the forum questions. They pointed out, and I'm going to say this on air. Somebody posted, these clowns are whatever, taking a shot at them. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't do that. All right, we don't do that here. Okay, now whether you're a Democrat or not, whether you are a Republican or not, doesn't mean that you take 20 Americans that in their eyes, if not your own, in their eyes and their beliefs, they're attempting to do something good for the country. Now, whether you agree with them or not actually is irrelevant here. They're Americans, and they're actually trying, all right? Some of them I'm not a big fan of. Some of them kind of am. Some of them are in the middle. There's a whole bunch that are just kind of there, just too many. But I don't begin my process by taking a look at a Republican and Democrat and calling them clowns or idiots or dumb or fools or whatever the hell you want to call them because it's third grade and we're in the kindergarten, out in the a third grader picking on a kindergarten. That doesn't help the political process. That doesn't help the American way. All it does is it continues to eat away at it. So I answered a bit of a question during one of the posts on Supermex Nation in the forum, and the beginning of the process to bringing this out. The person that posted wasn't trying to post it for informative purposes, okay? Was posting to kind of skew you, make fun of, joke about the other side. If you're going to do that, now I'll refer you back to a line I said, months ago. What my mom always said, if you got nothing good to say, Don't say anything at all. You know, there's some words of wisdom from the old days that we do not apply anymore. And by the way, some of the people acting in that fashion are from the old days. They seem to forget the lessons that our parents taught us. If you got nothing good to say, don't say a damn thing at all. So, long story short, it began with a not good thought, posting to make fun of or belittle, berate, exactly, 10 or 20 Americans talking about issuing policy. So what I do is, I'm not looking for any one in particular. What I'm doing is I'm listening for idea, I'm listening for policy, I'm listening for substance. And I'm listening to see if there's somebody there that puts an idea forth that might help this country go forward in a better way. There's a simple concept, correct? I believe it is. Listen for, remove your emotion, remove your personal likes, dislikes, etc., and listen for the substance of it. Listen for something that's potentially good or potentially bad. Remove the bad, keep the good. There you go. And I will say this, that it was out of these types of things, including debates, that we had the concept of healthcare coverage for poor Americans and for middle America that can't afford rising healthcare costs. Now, whether you're Republican or Democrat, I really don't care, because that is a necessity in today's age. People die because they do not have healthcare. Older folk die because they can't afford medications. Younger folk die due to catastrophic injury and they don't have any insurance because they're too young, and they die because they can't afford bills and treatments, etc. Americans die because of health care. All right? We're not talking about an accident. We're not talking about some out of the norm thing that happens and that person's gone. We're talking about things that, if not preventable, are treatable. And Americans today are having a harder and harder time treating, if not preventing, illness, injuries that are debilitating over time, etc., and they can't live a full life. I'm going to run you back, see how you fit on this continuum. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Kind of difficult to deal with if you have cancer. Kind of difficult to deal with if you have some injury when you're born, pre-existing condition, and you don't have the money to provide yourself with the treatment and the care that you need to just live a regular life and function. I've said this before. We did this on air one time in a prior show. The ability to pay for an ambulance, x-rays, things like that, will break your bank in the household in a heartbeat. And then you go forward and the family's in debt, mounting, crushing debt, and they can never get past low to middle income. Okay, these are healthcare costs. And so right back to my original point, that was all genesis from debates and policy talk in terms of covering people, regular people. I'm not talking about the wealthiest 1%, the wealthiest 5 or 10%. I'm talking about regular America being able to afford health care and coverage, being able to afford medications, being able to afford a test, a blood test, being able to afford an ambulance ride, being able to afford x-rays, being able to afford coverage for a child, a sick child that needs help, that needs the type of care that's going to keep them around for more than a day or so and live a healthy life. Those are important issues, okay? That's where these things come from. So that's quite literally why I listen to debates. And some of you pointed out, one of you guys messaged me after the Wednesday show and just basically stated that they don't have time to watch 2 hours of policy wonky stuff, and they trust that I will watch and give back to them as much as I can that's honest, truthful, and significant. So that's kind of what I'm going to deal with you tonight, wrapping up these last 2 nights, Wednesday and Thursday, that I spent, watching the tube, watching debates. I'm going to try to get out to you some of the most significant items that I thought mean more for America going forward. Because the reality is, and we thought this last cycle, you didn't know Donald Trump would be elected. And so now we're dealing and living with his policies. Okay? You don't know if one of the Democratic candidates ends up being a nominee, and they may be president, and we'll be living with their policies. Okay? So it goes both ways. And it's quite literally very important to try to remove yourself and distance yourself from emotion so that you can deal with this stuff honestly. What do you have that can make my life better? What are you going to do that allows me the ability to seek life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? That's what I listen for. Okay, so let me do this. Let's start with, this is what a general assertion. I preferred the first night over the second night. Okay, I preferred the first night over the second night. Now listen to me here clear. It had nothing to do with candidates and who was in the first night or the second night. It really didn't. I preferred the first night because my general feeling, and this is for me personally, you trust me a little bit, go with me now. The first night I felt was definitely more policy and issue oriented. You like the line, right? Issue oriented, fact-based, issue oriented, solution driven. That's my line. Fact-based, issue oriented, solution driven. So you'd kind of understand why. I liked the first night a little bit better because I personally felt that the ideas being discussed and the way, the style in which the different candidates brought forward their ideas and questioned other ideas was more along my style. And so that's for me. That's for me. But some of you guys have told me you watch because you believe in that format, that form, right? I'm not assuming some American that's a Democrat or Republican is a bad person. I'm going to listen to them because they're American. And if they don't have a good idea, then I won't use. If they have a good idea, then I'll Robin Hood that mess in a heartbeat and use it for myself. Steal from the rich, give to the poor. You see how it works? I'm a Robin Hood. They used to call me Mexican Hood. So the first night for me was far better, fact-based, issue-oriented, solution-driven. Now I'm going to tell you why, because all you're going to hear, or at least, and here's the other part of it. It depends on what you're listening to, right? Because we've definitely discriminated there. We've become more discriminate, at least on this show, as to what we listen to and how we're listening to it. If you listen to, for the most part, the main ones are this: MSNBC, Fox, and CNN. Those are the three major news outlets, if we want to call them that anymore, because it's like all three of them now are more like entertainment than they are news items. And again, I don't care if you're left or right. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. But I will argue with you tooth and nail, and I'll cite examples of why I believe MSNBC, CNN, and Fox are more entertainment than they are news outlets anymore. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still news, there's still substantive news out of all of those in some form or another. But clearly, if you're watching at certain times of the day, you clearly will get more fact-based news than you will get opinion or subjectivity from an individual. And that's usually, when they lace it up into prime time, the people that come on are more likely to give you their take or their view, not simple fact. That's usually earlier in the days for most of those networks. See how that works? Entertainment at night, hard stuff during the day. Okay, so if you're listening to one of those three, those main ones, now I've mentioned to you before that I actually attempt to listen to BBC and I listen to Sky News. I've got that on an app through Amazon Prime, as well as BBC News, available on our, I think it's AT&T or DirecTV, whatever the hell we have. So if you're listening to one of those three, which are the main ones, right, you're going to get it one way or the other. And they're like, I will say this, on MSNBC and CNN, all they're talking about is last night's debate, and all they're talking about is how Kamala Harris jumped on Joe Biden and made him look bad or good. But it's clear, there's an intent there, right? And I felt it, and I definitely felt it. And I've told you, I've been honest with you guys about what I see and what I feel, and I call it out. Whether I like it or not, whether I agree with it or not, you got to call it out. If you're watching Fox, it's about nothing's good, and they're making fun of, all the Democrats, but, in particular some of the main ones, because their purpose at this point is to try to make them look bad, take them down so that, basically in ratings and in polls, they dip or they don't look as good because you're getting ready for the general election. Now, let me back that up because we're talking about the Democratic side now, and Fox News is going to attack pretty much any Democrat that comes forward anyway and characterize them as all whatever. There are some legitimate concerns, and there are some that are just a joke, okay, because it's not objective, it's subjective. Let me walk back. So on MSNBC and CNN, it's been almost entirely, pro Kamala Harris. Now, I'll probably catch a little bit of hell for this, but, call a spade a spade. It is what it is. Not a question on my end of what I saw. So over those 2 nights, for instance, I've already told you that the first night, in my opinion, and if you really watch it, was less about somebody trying to score a shot on somebody, trying to hit somebody, trying to make them look bad, trying to make yourself look good, which I think you guys all know I'm not a good fan of, not a big fan. I just don't dig on it. If you're smart, capable, issue-oriented, fact-based, solution-driven, you shouldn't have to make fun of your opponent. You shouldn't have to take shots at your opponent. You shouldn't have to try to make your opponent less so that by extension you seem more. That's my method. My method may not be the right one, by the way. Apparently not. It's a different world, right? But for the most part, most of the coverage that I've seen over the last 2 days was almost, at this point, almost all on the second night and almost all on Kamala Harris attacking or pointing out Joe Biden and his history on busing and trying to make, trying to put something there about racial inequality, put it on Joe Biden's doorstep. Okay, so I'll walk back to that in a second. But my point is this. The first night with the other candidates, there were some shots, don't get me wrong. I mean, you can make the argument that Julian Castro, the only Mexican-American in the race, jumped on, if not, called out. I don't think his was as aggressive. His clearly wasn't as aggressive as like Harris's the next day. But he called out, Beto O'Rourke on policy. They were talking about policy on immigration reform, by the way, which is important. Yes, that happened a little bit today or yesterday as well. So immigration reform. If you're serious about immigration reform, you got to have serious talks, damn it. You got to have serious conversations. And you have to point out things that work and don't work. And you have to tell people why your plan will work better than the next guy's. So in a way, that's kind of what they did. Personally, I thought it was, kind of like the Harris thing. It was an intended swipe. They walk in, they've got their list. Okay, if somebody says this, I'm going to do this. I got to take a shot at this guy because he's occupying the same space. O'Rourke and Castro are both from Texas. They're both occupying the same space in that way. And I think somebody on the Castro camp felt that it was necessary to take a shot at O'Rourke since he's right above Castro in the polls, just a notch or two. And they're not going to take out Biden overnight. They're not going to take out Warren or the others overnight. The larger, right now it's Biden, Bernie Sanders, and Elizabeth Warren at the top in terms of the three. I think everybody that's 1%, 2% knows they're not going to take out that other person like that. So instead of trying to take out the front runner that's way out there, you take out the guy next to you. Maybe you're running next to him and you slip your leg out there and you give him a trip and now you're ahead and now maybe you can go after the front runner, right? I think that's more the case. But I'm going to, without getting into too much detail on it, it was a discussion and a point back and forth on the part of Castro to O'Rourke. And by the way, I don't even think O'Rourke's plans are not bad. They're actually, I won't say good, but they're doable because his plan is by far more likely to get bipartisan support than Castro's. Now, I'll probably get some Mexican homeboys to get on me about that. Oh, well, I tell the truth. If you can't handle it, don't watch. Okay, but O'Rourke might actually have a better opportunity to get something done because that's always it, right? That's our road. We want them to do what's right and wrong, and I'm not making excuses for them. We want them to do right and wrong. But when they push the right, something good, and it goes to the rest of the House of Representatives and the Senate, and it gets cut up and torn up, and next thing you know, it doesn't happen. So then you end up bringing it back. You cut it a little bit, you change it, alter it a little bit. It's not perfect. It's not what it was before, but maybe now it goes through. The argument is it more important to get something, even though it's not perfect, or nothing perfect? A perfect plan, perfect everything, but it doesn't go anywhere and it stays. A perfect plan doesn't happen, then how could it be perfect? A tree falling in the woods, there's your argument. So Anyway, it was a substantive debate. They actually talked about policy. They actually talked about things that are on the books right now. They actually talked about how their plans would affect going forward. They actually talked about how it's actionable in terms of the House of Representatives and the Senate and moving it forward if they were president, either one of them. That was just one item. There were others on the first night that were clearly issue-oriented policy discussions without as much of the, I'm here to take a shot at so-and-so because I got to move up in the polls. Now, again, I'm the last guy to use on that because, you know, I just don't dig on it. I believe in being this and never lowering your bar. I really do. And it's been hard, trust me. It has been really damn hard not to stoop down and kick somebody in the damn teeth once in a while. Because I've definitely been there. My bar is here, usually higher than everybody else's, and then I find that I'm getting kicked in the shins by some people. And I would like to drop below that bar and just beat the hell out of somebody sometimes, but I don't, and I haven't, and it's been over a quarter century since I raised my hand in anger. Bring that to now. How do you deal with the policy side of it? Well, you keep it clean, you keep it honest, you keep it straight, you keep it issue-oriented, fact-based, solution-driven on policy. So I'm going to say it again. The first night was, for me, far more policy-based, issue-oriented, fact-based, solution-driven of a night. The second night, it was clear people were coming out to take shots and try to take somebody down a peg. Now, the obvious one, of course, is Biden. He's out in front on the Democratic side in terms of the polls. And I think generically on a national scale, he's actually in front of the president and others too. So again, all that stuff changes, or it could be better, it could be worse. But in essence, he is the leader in almost all polls all over the country. So if you're one of those others and you want to be the president, you want to be the nominee, then you have to take a shot at somebody, and it's probably going to be Joe Biden. Here's what I will say. I talked to my son a little bit before I came. The main snafu was about busing, and I'll say specifically, because I'm not an expert here, specifically on African American peoples being bused and segregation policies coming out of the earlier part of the last century into the 50s and 60s. And then you had the civil rights movement into the 60s. There's a little bit of a history lesson. Not too much. Not going to get into too much here. But the civil rights movement into the 60s took nearly 100 years for, to actually get some civil rights for a group of people that were enslaved, about less than 100 years prior. And the civil rights movement. And they dealt with schools and desegregation of schools. I won't get into all of it. Brown versus Board of Education. I mean, there are cases. Brown versus Board is probably the most important one, the most significant, but it has to do with having one group of people going to a school and another group of people going to a separate school, or being bused separately, or basically unequal treatment of individual Americans based on color or ethnicity, not just race. Okay? So that's what the potential landing blow was. So I try to dissect all this, and I'll give you my take on this one when I'm done when it comes to the media, because I'm not done with that, by the way. And I know I'm digging in you in hard here, but this is a policy show. Okay, I don't want to just make it entertainment all the time. It isn't just entertainment, but I do get into serious substantive issues and ideas. Tonight we're doing that because it's significant, because it has to do with race. And you guys know that I've talked quite a bit. I've devoted airtime to race and inequality, not just because I'm a minority, but because I see the problem with reverse discrimination. If all we did was, hey, look, I was discriminated against as a young man and put me on air right now, you're going to like this. At least those of you that believe in what I believe in the American way. Now pay attention here. I grew up and I was discriminated against. I was treated differently. I was done to. I got my ass kicked more than a few times simply because of the color of my skin. I got jumped by an entire nightclub in Louisiana when I was a young man simply because I was that dark guy, that darky. That's all true. Okay? I've been discriminated against. I've been beaten down. I've been kicked the hell out of. I've been near death more times than I care to count. On other items too, but in some cases because of racial issues, because I look different than another. So I know what that is. I've dealt with it personally. I know what it is to be made fun of the Monday after the weekend because I was in the fields cutting grape, picking cotton, chili, you name it. And on the Monday, I was made fun of because the farmer's son saw me and remembered that I was out picking his grapes the weekend before. That's all true. That's all true. All right? So what does that mean to now? Does it mean that I hate all the white folk that treated me like that? No, because that is one person. That is a group of people. It's not everybody. It's not all of white America, whatever that term means. Now, I have friends that are white, black, blue, brown, green, orange, you name it. I'd even have some alien homeboys if they were, inclined to do so. So I've had all that in the background. But this country doesn't get stronger because all we do is sit and complain about what was done to us. Are there things that should be addressed? Yes, absolutely. Are there things that should be brought up and talked about? Yes, absolutely. But I'm telling you on my end, I don't live my life concerned with the dirty, evil people that did me wrong. Because if I did, I wouldn't be here today talking to you now. That would never have happened. Probably end up dead somewhere. Okay, because I would have opened my mouth and said something, I would have rushed into the wrong thing, whatever. But that would be the case. So those items are quite literally why they're significant to me. Now, I'm not an African-American man or woman. I'm not Asian. There was an Asian on the stage. That brother is smart, Yang, and the guy is smart. And he ain't getting, I think my favorite line from that guy was, and it wasn't last night, he should have said it again. He said, Donald Trump's worst nightmare is an Asian man that loves math. I thought that was pretty damn hysterical. You got to love that kind of stuff, man. That's a guy who's not taking himself too seriously. That's a guy who's honest. And I bet you he's pretty damn good at math. Why would you say that, right? Because you probably are. So there are a lot of different flavors and a lot of different types. And I will say this definitely about the Democratic side. The Democratic side, in terms of these debates, there are far more women, there are far more minorities than anything that I've ever seen in my lifetime. Hold, pause, full stop. Not a rolling stop. It'll get you busted at a corner if a cop sees you, or not, depending on where you live. Full stop. It is the most diverse field in ethnicity, gender, geography, you name it, it's it. So I do dig on that about what the Democratic field is. And because of it, you get a hell of a plethora, a hell of a diversity of ideas when it comes to this particular field. So the Kamala Harris thing on Joe Biden, it didn't register. Now I'm going to say this because if you watch news media, cable news media, talk shows, etc., they're all over it. They're all over it. Whether they're for Harris or not. Maybe it's just to take down Biden, right? Take down the front runner on the Dem side. I get it. But my son kind of told me today, he's like, he didn't get it. What does that even mean, Dad? Okay, now he's in his 20s. So unless you're my age or older, you may actually know what segregated busing looks like, segregated schools look like. Because here we are, America. I'm creeping on 50. Those that are younger than me are extremely unlikely or less likely to even know what the hell they're talking about. Think about that. Okay, now we do know that the millennial generation, and I've talked about it before, I'm going to talk about it again. The millennial generation is larger in vote total now than ever before and larger than any other group in the country now. So what I'm telling you now, pay attention here, the millennial group, younger than me, Gen X and below, younger than me, they probably don't know what the hell happened last night and what the big deal is. Now, I don't know what that means or how it plays out, in a poll or a race, but I'm telling you that unless you're my age or older, you probably don't understand, and I'm not talking about just listening to a few lines from a candidate, you probably don't understand what it means to have segregated busing, segregated schools, because you've never lived through it. You're getting secondhand information from your parents or grandparents. So this relevance to last night doesn't hold the same type of water. Now, I do think there was some precision to her attack because it doesn't register with white folk or Mexican folk, or maybe even Asian or other folk. Her target was specifically the African American population on the Democratic side. Because, if you don't know, I'll inform you now, Joe Biden's largest block of support of all Democrats, of all the Democrat Party, is with African Americans, for the obvious reason, if you want to go back that far, okay? So that's where his base of support lies. That's where he's getting the majority of his people to support him. And it's older African Americans that will understand the segregation and busing issue. They're the ones that will understand. So it may be, now I'm not a big fan of this type of stuff, but I do see and understand the intent, and it is smart, because if you want to remove with surgical precision a big portion of Joe Biden's support base, then you call into question his segregation credentials, his racial inequality credentials, his support in the black community with older African Americans, not younger. I'm going to say that, so let's break this up. Younger people in general, white, black, blue, brown, green, doesn't matter. African American, Mexican, Latino, everything that is younger than me, roughly, everything younger than me, it's not going to register in the same way what happened on the stage the other night. It's not. It just doesn't it kind of didn't, at first, and if I didn't know history, I don't know history, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. But it didn't hit me the same way, one, because I'm not African American, by the way. So it didn't hit me the same way, even though those types of practices and policies were done to Mexican Americans and other people of color. That was done too. We just didn't get as much of attention on it. We didn't get as much coverage on it, maybe back in those days, right? But it didn't register with me as much because I'm kind of in that crux, that period. If you're younger than me, white, brown, blue, green, orange, yellow, you name it. If you're younger than me, it doesn't register with you the same way. It wasn't a big deal. Not as big a deal as others. Now, if you're older than me, if you're my age and older, see how that litmus runs? If you're my age and older, and in particular, if you're African American, if you're black, then you do know what it is. And if you're Kamala Harris and you can call into question Joe Biden's credentials on racial inequality, busing, segregated schools, etc., then it can hurt Joe Biden there. If you're white, if you're Mexican, if you're other, it's probably not registering even if you are older. I do kind of know what that is, but it doesn't register the same way. It doesn't have as much of an impact. I think her targeted blow, and I say targeted specifically, was meant to hurt Joe Biden specifically in the African American community that's older, which, by the way, is a very strong voting bloc on the Democratic side. So what we're talking about debates, but we're talking about race. We're talking about race and culture in America. We're talking about race and inequality in America. We're talking about serious items that we still haven't solved, by the way. Listen, if I've got Nazis walking the damn street and they don't give a damn about putting a hood over their head to cover themselves, that means they're brave enough and they don't give a damn anymore. They're going to practice their policies and they don't care if you see their faces. That's where we are in America right now. So is it important? Hell yes, it's important. It's significant. We have that stuff going on right now in America. In a country where both of my grandfathers served in World War II, fighting the Nazis, fighting Nazism, fighting fascism, so that we can have that type of race stuff going on in our streets today, you're damn right it's significant. So I'm interested to see. I do think regardless, strictly from a clinical perspective of how the debate appeared, on that term, in that context, Joe Biden will take a hit. He will take a hit. The others were more aggressive on him. They had the look of somebody's that were hungrier and wanted to go after him, and he looked like a guy that was taking shots. I heard one talk show host say that was a mortal blow, meaning he's done. I'm telling you, talk about hyperbole. I was sitting there listening like, come on, man. What do you mean he's done? I do, and I'm going to walk this back now. Watch. So some of you on my right, my homeboys on my right, my Republican friends, my conservative friends are going to like this because they're going to see it as I'm taking a shot at the Democratic Party. By far, no. It's just analysis. It's clinical. I'm entirely sterile when it comes to my issue and point on what I see. This is really simple. I didn't take the Harris thing in context as I was watching and even after. Nor did I take the Julian Castro thing the night before with Beto O'Rourke, the day before, as monolithically one major death blow to any one candidate. I think they're trying to drum it up. I think they're trying to hyperbolize. I think they're trying to make it sound worse or better, depending on who you are. It was kind of funny. You know, I chuckled about it. But here's a fact. Biden's not going to move significantly. He may drop a little bit, but he's not moving. And let's face it, I think everybody knows eventually he's going to have to come back down to earth. He started out really damn high, significantly high compared to 20-something other candidates. And he's going to have to come back, and it's going to be more movement, and some are going to rise, some are going to fall. Here we go, and we get into the primary states, the early voting states, Super Tuesday, and then we're going to go to, you know, a Democratic nomination convention. You'll have your side, you know, a Democrat here and a president here, and then let's get it on. But here's where it's at. As I watched, it became clearer and clearer to me. See, some of you guys get this. I do it once in a while. That it was Barzini all along. Come on, man. Godfather 1. Where are you guys at? It was Barzini all along. All right, what do I mean? There are other things going on here that are not seen. And I really got the sense out of both nights and after, definitely from media. Definitely from media. Definitely from CNN or MSNBC and some other outlets. I definitely got the feel that they were putting their thumb on the scale, meaning they were trying to influence through their coverage. Look, some of you guys are going to like that. That happens all the time. It does. I'm not saying it doesn't. Okay, the difference is when I do it, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'll tell you up front what I'm doing. If I'm trying to influence you, I'm going to tell you. And by the way, you notice I never do that really with your vote, right? I don't tell you how to vote. If I'm something serious about, definitely not parties, okay, or politicians. I don't believe in doing that. When the time comes, you know, maybe somewhere down the road, maybe, but not right now. I believe in giving you fact-based, issue-oriented, solution-driven items, and then you make your own choice. And I think just about all of you agree, and definitely those of you guys that are watching now, the loyal ones, you can vouch for me. I've never done that to you. I've never done that to you. Not going to start now. But I did see media coverage, news coverage, that clearly, in my opinion, was trying to influence polls, polling data, viewers' minds on how this goes forward. No question. No question. Because they did make it something more than what it was. They were attempting to make the Harris moment like something super big. And I'm like, wait a minute. Here's an example. Kirsten Gillibrand, she was on night 2, Democrat, New York. She clearly talked about women's issues with a greater sense of urgency and a greater seriousness than any other female, even on the first night, I would say. She articulated a better message on women's rights and pushing a female agenda forward. But nobody said anything about her. And she took some shots at people. She took some shots. Eric Swalwell, the young guy from California, he busted up Joe Biden a little bit too. He had that joke, or he had that crack about, and this was pretty good. He said that he was at a speech or a ceremony 32 years ago, and that a politician, you're going to like this, a politician went up on stage and said, it's time for a new generation of leaders to take charge and move this country forward. And he brought that up. Well, that leader, that speaker, was Joe Biden from 32 years ago that Eric Swalwell, as a young man, heard. So he turned around and he said, Mr. Biden, I agree with you. It is time for a new generation of leaders. Meaning you're too old. Let's put it on the table. You're too old. We're younger. Let us lead. I thought that was funny. But that was here's something to consider. Bernie Sanders took that as ageism, as an ageist joke. Like, if you're older, then you can't do the job because you're too old. Think about that. Because a lot of my viewers are not exactly young chickens. I'm not anymore either, by the way. Okay, but I'm not going to have some young punk tell me I can't do something. I don't want to hear that. So that was on the second night as well. Swalwell took a swipe at Biden. There were other shots intermingled. I mean, I remember the first night, Bill de Blasio, that dude was like, I don't know, there was something about that guy. I'll just say it. I didn't dig on that guy a whole lot. You know, he's the mayor of New York. I'm going to say it again, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't even get to his substance because I didn't like his style. Now, I know that's ugly because I do listen for it, but there's something about him. He kind of bothered me. He aggravated me. A little too aggressive. There's a point to being aggressive, and there's a point to being obnoxious. And to me, he came off a little bit too much. You know, I was like, you need to slow your roll, homeboy. Just get your damn ideas out. Stop trying to bully your way and bust your way into everything. That's not American. That's a bully. I don't do good with bullies. I'll knock a damn bully out. So there were other shots. There were other people that had significant moments. I will say it from the first night. I didn't get to all of it because I had to go watch the rest of it when I got home from Wednesday. But Tulsi Gabbard, she's a vet. She's currently a major, United States Army Reserve. She had probably the best response and discourse, dialogue on the Iran war that's probably coming, and you know where I'm going to be with it. All of you, you should know. You better know. She had the best comments and the best insight into discussing foreign policy in the Middle East and Iran. And I would trust Tulsi Gabbard more than I'd trust the president right now, because I don't know what the hell he's doing, or Obama, or even Bush before him. Last few presidents, 3 or 4 presidents, haven't done a hell of a good job on foreign policy. I'll say that right now, because Russia's stronger than ever. Anyway, I digress. So here's the point. Tulsi Gabbard had some great moments. Gillibrand did. There's some others that did. Yang had some great. Listen, Yang, the Asian guy, on the second night, of all 20 candidates, of all 20, he is the guy that clearly and succinctly answered all questions, again, with clarity and in a succinct fashion. S-U-C-C-I-N-T. That means, let me break it down real simple. He did it with a handful of words and didn't run off at the mouth trying to tell you everything about him, but never answered the question. Andrew Yang actually answered the damn questions and kept it short, sweet, and concise. That guy was the real deal. I sat there and like, why isn't this guy getting more attention? You know, and maybe it's because he answers the question truthfully, honestly, and concisely, not just succinct, okay? But he's straight. He's straight and to the point. And people don't talk about him because he just answers your question. Give me the guy who answers the question without trying to tell me about some story. Give me the guy who answers a question without, well, I knew this guy back in and he told me this. Just give me the damn answer. Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang. That guy's legit. Poor dude ain't getting any coverage. Maybe because he answers the questions too damn well. Maybe we as Americans want to be misled. Maybe we want to hear somebody run off at the mouth so that later on we can come back and complain about that person never answering the question. Because when we're faced with and stared in the face with the guy who actually answered the question clearly, concisely, and abruptly, with brevity, B-R-E-V-I-T-Y, we don't pay attention to him. I think we want the person to keep running and talking and jabbering and sounding like a politician because that's what we're accustomed to. My point is, don't complain about that guy or that gal when that's what you get. Because there are others. I saw one last night that answered the questions, all the questions, clearly and concisely without running off at the mouth like a politician. There you go. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm going to wrap up here in a second, but point of it all is there were some good ideas. There were some things that I think could move forward in policy. maybe not get voted on. I don't know. You know, the way that things are right now, who knows what the hell happens? Who knows what gets voted on? But there were some damn good ideas. There were good discussions on health care and clearly health care, and talking about patients with pre-existing conditions. They were talking about going after big companies that are jacking up prices for average Americans in terms of medication and prescription drugs. That's important, ladies and gentlemen. That's important. There were clear and concise issue discussions on foreign policy, which we definitely need right now. We'd end up in another damn war on top of the ones we already have. That was good. By the way, I'm going to say it. I got to say it. There are now four Democrats that are veterans, and they could actually speak to foreign policy from experience. From experience. That's significant. We don't get that anymore at the top of the ticket. We don't get presidents that actually know what the hell they're doing on a world stage in foreign policy, dealing with our military in other countries, and not getting us into stupid wars or getting us in position to be in a stupid war. That's significant. And I'll hold a bunch of presidents going back a long time now to that task. Okay, so we do have that. 4 veterans, ladies and gentlemen, good people. For those of you guys that calls them clowns, you guys don't know what the hell you're talking about. Oh, wait a minute, you guys love veterans though, right? Everybody loves a veteran. You don't love a veteran when they don't suit your need. Yeah, I said that on air. I'm going to say it again. You love veterans, but you don't love veterans when they don't suit your need, either political or personal. That's a fact. Point, 4 vets are running. And the God's honest truth, and I hate to have to admit it, I don't even like saying it, but the reality is those 4 probably don't have a chance, and they're probably not going to get to the top of the ticket. And I think that's unfortunate. I think it's the way we cover these races. I think it's what we are lacking as a civilian society. I think it's who we are, staring ourselves in the mirror, talking about how we want what's right. We want people that can bring people together. We want people that actually know what the hell they're talking about. We want people that are honest. There's a concept. We want people to tell the damn truth. But when it's all over and done, we don't vote for them, ladies and gentlemen. We don't vote for them. We vote for other. And then we cry and complain about what we have, and we beat the hell out of each other from both sides, because that's what we vote for. As it is right now, if it gets to my time into the California primary, this is hard, but I don't like doing too many things out too front. But well, let's do this. I'm not 100% because I don't believe in 100%. I can die tomorrow and I'm gone. I'm an old soldier. I know what life and death is. I could be dead tomorrow. But if we get to the California primary, if I'm fortunate enough that the big man upstairs allows me to live that long, I'm probably voting for a vet. I'm probably voting for a vet, even if it means that vote doesn't nominate a presidential candidate or nominee. On principle. I am probably just going to go on principle, you know, with at least this side, on the Democratic side, right? Because there are 4 people that are vets. One of them I really like. 2 of them actually I really like. And now this other dude, C-Stack, that just got in, he is a Rear Admiral, retired. He understands what it is to deal on a foreign policy level on the world stage with foreign policy. Anyway, so here's the take. So the overall, this is why I tell you to watch. Watch for yourselves. Because then you go listen to somebody telling you what it is. You go listen to somebody telling you what they saw. And they clearly have an agenda. They clearly have a motive to move you one way or the other for ratings. I can tell you right now, I don't give a damn about ratings. I don't give a damn about ratings. I don't give a damn about how bad it makes me look or how good it makes me look. It's on a moral, right and wrong continuum for me. I tell you what I see honestly and objectively, not subjectively. Objectivity, ladies and gentlemen. Fact-based, issue-oriented, solution-driven. That's what I attempt to do for you, or at least with you, for those of you guys that are gracious enough to spend your Friday nights with me. at least on this night, this Friday night, right? I appreciate it. Trust me, I do entirely. So that's what I saw. Don't just listen to cable news, talk media, etc., because you won't get the full story. I saw what I needed to see. I gave you some kernels here and there of some good things. I gave you some bad things. It's fair. It's honest. It's clean. It's equitable. Those are the things that I saw. And whether you like it or not, if you're not a Democrat and you're a Republican and you just think they're all bad or they're all clowns, you need to question yourself and look yourself in the damn mirror. Those are other Americans that are actually trying to do something. You may not agree with what they're doing. You may not agree with how they do it, but they're trying. Now, I don't agree with a lot of the stuff the president does. I agree with some of the things he does. But I don't wake up every morning calling him a clown or a fool or an idiot or a liar. Yeah, you caught that last? Because it doesn't move the needle. It doesn't move us forward. There are a lot of things I don't like. Okay, but I'm going to leave you with that last thought before we get into Tag That Track. If you got nothing good to say, yeah, that's my mama. That's one of those, in the good old days, this is what we used to do. Some of you are from the good old days. Some of you are my age or a little bit older, maybe a lot, I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. I hope you're not guilty of acting and moving in that fashion. Get your bar high. Don't lower your bar. Stay up here with me. The air's nice up here. The air is really nice. A lot clearer, a lot cleaner. Don't lower your bar for whatever political purpose. Be honest, straight, to the point, clear-headed, and objective. Fact-based, issue-oriented, solution-driven. Stay there with me. Stay right here. We don't go down. We stay right here, okay? Nice and level. An old drill sergeant used to tell me that all the time. Keep your standards high. Don't lower your standards for anybody. The minute you lower your standards, you're just another scrub. Stay here. Those are truisms, by the way. He called me a scrub if I lowered my standards. Okay, so let's get into wrapping up Friday night and going into Saturday already. And I hope that tonight it looks like I've got an older set, my age and older or around my age. So I'm hoping you dig on these songs. All right, so I've got to pull them up. I remember my speaker. Hopefully you guys get this loud enough. All right, let's see what we got. All right, Tag That Track, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready? You ready, Ricks? You ready? I got KP's not on the handle tonight, ladies and gentlemen. KP's doing, what was he doing, a shoot? Yeah. He was somewhere in Visalia or something like that? In L.A.? KP boy, man, he's going to end up leaving us. He wants to be in L.A. all the time. Wants to be a big-time movie producer, director and stuff. More power to him. So anyway, KP's not here tonight. So we got a young blood that's learning the craft and the method. And we are fortunate to have him. Like I said, it's on a Friday night. He's giving up a Friday night. He must not have nothing better to do, right? You got a girlfriend? You got a girlfriend? No, right now. Well, that's what you get because you're hanging out with me on Friday night, man. You need to get out there. So we call this show on the Fridays is Cheap Date Night. It's cheap because I'm free. I'm a free date on Friday nights. All right, me and Rick's are cheap dates on Friday night. How old are you? Oh, you're 25. Okay, young enough. You're half my age. All right, so cheap date night on a Friday night. Older guy, young buck. And here's what we got for you for songs. See if you guys get these.
Put your head on my shoulder.
That's too easy. That's the damn line. That's the title. All right, but that's a great song. Let's see if you guys get where I'm going with this mess. First song. All right. Second song. too easy. See, these old songs, man, they gave you the title like within the first whatever, right? They come in with the intro and then they give you the title. Different time. Think about it though. Back in those days, you kind of had to get the hook and that initial like right away stick in your head. You remember the song? Right. So some of you guys see where I'm going with this, right? I hope you see where I'm going. You should. Barbara, I hope you're listening. All right, next. I saw Louis was there. Louis, if you're calling yourself a homeboy, you better know these songs.
Oh, when the sun is down and there's a time on the roof, and your shoes get so hot, you wish your tired feet were fireproof. Under the boardwalk, down by the sea.
Yeah. Man, that's some good stuff right there. That's some good stuff. For you young guys, if you got any young folk watching tonight, you guys got to go dig in on some of these. Educate yourselves on some good older stuff. All right, next. Yeah, that's good. Sing like that anymore, ladies and gentlemen. They just don't. In those days, you had to actually be able to sing, legit. If you weren't good, you didn't get on anything. You had to be really good. Now you can mask it with music, synth, and all kinds, or, instrumental, synth, everything else. But you had to be able to do that, actually use the instrument, the vocal instrument. All right. Are you there with me, Louis? Barbara, I hope. Here you go. This one's for Louis. Here you go, Louis, if you're watching.
All my friends never low rider. The low rider is a little higher.
Oh, yeah. That one's for you, Louis. Question your credibility, homeboy. All right. Here we go.
Hey there, lonely girl, let me know your arms like you.
That's a great song. That's a great song. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here we go. Cue this mess.
Darling, you sent me. I know you
send me,
Darling, you
send me.
honest you do, honest you do, honest you do. Whoa, you thrill me. I know you.
Some good stuff. Got two more for you. Ugh. All right. So if you ain't there with me now, you probably never will be if you don't get the gist of it. But I'm going to give you the last one. And of all of this, you know, so just tell you, okay, it's oldies, all right? And in my culture, where I grew up with the families, my mom's side and my dad's side, oldies but goodies, oldies but goodies. And, you know, omnipresent. It was everywhere, all the time. It was like culture. It's part of our life. It's just, this is what we are. And then the messaging, you know, was there. If you listen to the lyric, right? Great lyrics, great songs, great music. But it's out of the 50s into the 60s, not so much the back end of the 60s. Most of this is out of the late 50s into the 60s. So that's why I was like, Barbara, I hope you're there. These are good tunes. I hope you got them. Louis, if you call yourself a homeboy, and any of you young bloods out there that are my guys, young Mexican Americans, young homies, you know, in this area of mine or all over the country, all over the nation, all over Super Mex Nation, this is bread and butter. This is backbone. This is staple. This is Americana, by the way. This is some of the greatest music America had ever produced, you know, coming out of that era, and still the backbone of quite a lot of other musical genres today. Know your history, ladies and gentlemen. Remember the lesson at the top of the hour? Know your history. Know what came before you. Keep the good, sift out the bad. Did you hear that, politicians? Keep the good, sift out the bad. So this one, this guy, whew, there's so many I can listen to him all night, all the time, get a couple beers, just kick back and listen to this dude all night long. And you know, repeat and pass out to this music. But I'm going to go with this one. I don't have a favorite. That's how good or how much I like this guy and how good he is. I don't have a favorite. There's just too many damn good songs that he's got. But let's go with this one. All right, so watch what I'm going to do here. Check this out. Okay, so I told you, I got to be careful because if I go too long, Facebook and I think YouTube also will cut me because, you know, the songs are copyright protected, etc. So you can't play somebody's full song if you don't have the rights to it. I get it. It's not my property. But it's good music, right? It's good music. You want to play the music. And so I don't have the rights to it. Maybe one of these days when Super Mex Nation is big enough and we start growing, coming this summer, out of the summer into the fall, I'm going to start doing some things you're like, whoa. All right, so once we start doing that, maybe I get big enough to where I can own some of these songs. I just play them all the damn time. But I cut it there because there's a cut off of seconds that if you don't go past that, they won't mute you or cut you off on your video, on the Super Mex Nation video. That's happened to me before. I got to be careful. So I cut it off on purpose. So I stopped you there, and if it's there's no rule for unbroken. So as long as I don't play it consecutively, I'm okay. So what I've done is I've inserted my good-looking Mexican mug into this good song so that I can play a little bit more. See how I did that? All right, here we go.
Baby, let's cruise away from here. Don't be confused. The way is clear.
So I can quite literally listen to that dude all night and all the time. My son who sings has a heavy grounding in that dog right there, and in general in all this music that I played for you tonight. So I want to, what is the point, for, to tag that track for tonight? In general, I like doing the songs. Music's a big part of my life. It always has been. In another life, I would have went the music route entirely when I was younger. Started to sing in a band and in some groups when I was back in the Army. Didn't really stay with it, wasn't consistent about it. Too wild child, was too busy partying, having a good time. But I really, really wanted to sing and really wanted to act when I was a young dude. Life happened, met a good woman, had great kids, lived a good life. I'm at the back end now, and I got a little bit of time here. So I'm going to do more with music. But here's the point to this, okay? The music I'm playing, here's a conundrum. And it's a good one. It's a good one, America. I want you to pay attention to this. If you get nothing else out of this show tonight, pay attention to this. Most of the people that I grew up with in the culture that I grew up in, the Mexican-American culture, Chicano culture, Latino culture, whatever you want to call us, whatever we term ourselves, it was grounded in and all over with oldies music. It was everywhere, okay? Now, I did mention, and I've said to you before, that my father, before he died when I was a little boy, he listened to a lot of everything. Pops loved CCR, Captain and Tennille. He loved to go disco dancing. He did everything, all right? But he liked a little bit of everything. He used to hang out with hippies. He used to hang out with bikers. And this was a blatantly Mexican man. Blatantly Mexican. What does that mean? And this is the vato right here. This dude's vato down to the core. And for those of you guys that understand what I'm talking, you know what I'm talking about. My point was that he intermingled, mixed, spliced, and the man was able to move alternatively and alternately into other subgroups of American society with ease. With ease. I envy him that. I really do. I don't have that ability the way he did. That's just me being honest and straight. I wish I did. I frequently cause people to hackles raise and a little afraid. But my dad didn't have that issue. He had the ability to move in and out of societal subgroups at ease, with ease. And I envy him that. One of the greatest things about him. So aside from him, because he listened to this stuff too, but my mom's side of the family, my dad's side of the family, this is all our culture, this is all our music. Why is it important? Because this is America. Okay, this is America. The artists that I played for you tonight, the people, these songs out of the 50s into the early 60s, were from a great period in our history. There's been a lot made of that. Oh, we want to go back to the 50s. Here's the thing. There are some things about the 50s I would like to go back to. You heard me say it. Does it have to do with civil rights? Hell no. Hell no. Not that. Okay, but some great music. Maybe not in good form. Do I hate or hold all those people in the 50s that weren't understanding of civil rights and other people's rights? No, I don't blame them or say they're evil. They didn't know better. They're ignorant. They were ignorant. Ignorance doesn't mean stupid or dumb. It just means they were unaware of what was coming, what is coming, what would be. We need to have that discussion today, ladies and gentlemen, in America. We need to have that discussion. Ignorance will be the greatest mover in our downfall as a people, as a society, as a culture. Ignorance of other. Back and forth. That means minorities who don't understand that there were good things and positive things that this country started as and came to now. And white folk, for lack of a better term, that don't understand that there are minorities like me, women and others, that will come forward and do great things too, because we understand the history and the process of this country. That's a very, very singularly unique and very significant approach to how we go forward. But you heard it here. I'm putting it out for you. Deep down inside, some of you are afraid of all those brown folks coming over the border. I'm one of them. And don't give me that, oh, I didn't come over the border. You know, there was a time when I had grandparents that did. I'm not un-American. I would die for this country and its principles. There are more like me coming. I'm asking you to welcome me because I would welcome you. I invite you into my time with me every Friday or Monday, Wednesday, and I tell you the truth. And I tell you about what it is to be American. And you know what? My American gels with yours, whether you're white, black, blue, brown, or green, whether you're in New York, Chicago, Miami, LA, Texas, doesn't matter to me. It's all the same. This music I played for you tonight on Tag That Track, ladies and gentlemen, it's all the same. It's all American. It just happens to be through this little particular filter that I gave to you tonight. For those of you out there, homeboys, homegirls, Mexicans, Mexican-Americans, get square with some of your history. It's American history, but it's your history too. That's how we go forward. Okay, I had fun tonight. I was solo. Be back with some folks next week. It's going to be good because I do have females coming, finally. I reached out. There are some that will be able to come on the show, probably starting this coming week. And now we can get some female perspective to add to the testosterone. All right? Balance that. There you go. I've always walked for balance. So, as usual, like my boy said, safety briefing. Go out, live, do. Don't just listen to cable news and talk media and all the people that blast your ears trying to find enemies in this damn country. Don't just listen to that this weekend. Go out and live. Go out and do. Spend time with your family. Spend time with friends. Go engage. Go watch a movie. Go down to the local store. Go get an ice cream. Live, be, do, get out. And ultimately, as always, be safe, be careful. Don't just be mindful for yourself, but be mindful of those around you, because you're not the only one that lives on this little blue planet. There are other people. And sometimes it might be the other that might cause you the harm or the damage in an accident or something like that. Just be careful of your surroundings, be mindful, know where you are. Have a good weekend. I'll touch up. I'm going to add some stuff to the Facebook post this weekend. Make your weekend enjoyable. That's what I'm asking you to do. Make your weekend enjoyable. Supermex is out. I'll see you this coming week. All right. I didn't get the time.